here now. So we've got Mukesh as our first speaker talking about coping with financial difficulties. So Mukesh, are you there?
Hello.
Morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, Mukesh, I was just saying we've got you as our first speaker. So if you'd like to
Okay, have you shared the screen?
have you got a presentation?
Yeah, I've got 3 different types of presentation, and I was really going to take it from what people would like to know about, because I have something called 10 tips to save money, which goes through money management rather than debt management. I've got a little bit about what the credit union does, and then a formal one. But I think the 10 tips are the one which everybody always wants to know, how they can help save money and also prepare themselves for difficult circumstances, which I think today we're in. So I think that one may be more useful than anything else. What do people think?
I think that's a really good idea. And will this be recorded so we can refer to it again?
I think Ian's recording.
Yeah,
I can see the record button.
Cool.
Okay.
How about that?
Brilliant. Mukesh, can I just interrupt quickly? Can everyone put their mics on mute? Thank you, except Mukesh.
Okay. All right. Okay. Let me just see if I can get it on slideshow from the beginning. Okay. How about that? Can you see that, everybody?
Yes. Yeah.
Excellent. Okay. So that's what we're going to talk about today. I'm going to use a little technology because we've been doing some stuff with Jane on presentations and things like that, and hopefully you'll appreciate what I'm doing. I am the chairman of a credit union, so there's my plug. It's called Thames Bank Credit Union, so you can Google that at your leisure later on. But what I'm going to try and do in a very short period of time, and the presentation will be available, is 10 things and I call it 10 best ways to save money. Some of them you'll just think, why aren't I doing this already? Or I'm already doing that, so I don't need to think about it. The way I look at it is that if you can walk away from this presentation and just do one of those things, it will make a significant difference to your lifestyle. And many of us are working with people who have financial issues, and quite often, even a simple idea, without making it feel too difficult, you've got the option to be able to show them this. So here we go, and feel free to save your questions, put them in the chat box, and I'm happy to answer them at the end if it's okay, unless there's something pressing, then down to Ian to allow you to speak. Okay, so here we go. Number 1, let's talk about this. This is the thing which everyone worries about, and the way I look at it at the moment, and I'll just use the slides as reference points. You're not getting a lot of interest on your savings. So the important thing is that if you have debt, you might want to actually think about getting rid of the debt first before you start saving. The main reason is that most high street lenders are giving you like 0.1%. And if you're at the moment, the credit unions are probably giving between 0.4, 0.5%. So it's still higher than the high street lenders. But they still continue to charge you anything from 22.9%, right, up to 1,000%, depending on which organization you've got a loan with. So first of all, think about eliminating your debt. Think about budgeting. Budgeting doesn't have to be too complex, but it does need you to think seriously about how much you spend on different things during the month. So putting it down on paper may seem a task, but I can assure you, when you look at that, you realize how much you're spending on different things. can make a huge difference to you. And I'll demonstrate that as we go along with real life examples of what you could do, and work with anyone who's having problems. I'm not a debt advisor. I can do money management. I've been on the CAP course to try and help people, but only on money management, not on debt management. So in case anybody says, oh, you're not qualified to do that. But just imagine yourself, I've got a mistake there. It says £3,300 for a latte. It's meant to be £3 for a latte. But imagine, you know, every week you spend £3 a day, or even once a week on a coffee. If you multiply that up by 5, that's £15 a week. If you multiply it up by a month, right? Anyone want to hazard a guess? Right? It'll be about £60 or more. And then if you multiply that up even more for the year, that's a serious amount of money you've spent on coffee when you could actually just have a jar of, well, a bit of advertising, Nescafe Gold Blend. You could make it, oh, I've got someone making some noise. Okay, but just think about that as one simple example of how you could actually save money and use that to help eliminate your debt. The other thing you need to think about is actually setting goals. And many people who I encounter, they forget about setting goals. And the biggest one is always, all of us want to do is actually save perhaps towards buying a flat or a house or somewhere to live. And you need to think about how you're going to do that. I have a little formula which I share with my children. It's called a 50-30-20. Now, the way I look at it is 50% of your money which you get, you should be spending on the things you have no choice over. So end of story. If you can, then between the 20 and the 30%, flip them accordingly to how much you would like to save or spend for certain luxuries. So when you have that in place, you'll be in a much better position. Okay, so try doing that, and it really does make your eyes open in that respect. The other thing to do is also to make sure that if you can set up your savings account or your checking account, meaning your regular bank account, and set it up so that you pay £50 or £25 or whatever amount you want to yourself, right, into a savings account. Now, the great thing about doing that is you don't see it. It just disappears and you won't miss it if it's already gone from your account. And this is what we do within the credit union movement. We suggest to people, put £10 a month or £20 a month into your account, right, at the beginning of the month or whenever you get paid. If you don't see it, you won't feel it. So it's a really clever strategy which tricks your brain, yeah? But it also helps you in terms of your long-term saving. I'm going to have an example at the end about what it means to save us a little bit amount of money. But just imagine if you save £50 every month, right? Forget the 2 weekly whatever, but £50 every month, right? Okay, it's a significant amount of money at the end of the year. I try and do that, and that way I've got presents for my children, not children, but grandchildren, for Diwali and various other festivals where I need to be able to find some money. So, and I'm on a pension, so it's really important I do money management. Now, this is the one which everybody thinks about. It's stop smoking. Yeah, there are still huge numbers of people who smoke, and a packet of cigarettes does cost a lot of money. And I already can see my mistake because my typing, instead of I've got two different keyboards. I've got an American keyboard and an English keyboard. So sometimes my characters get messed up. But if you imagine, anyone got an idea on how much a packet of cigarettes costs these days? Anyone? let's say a fiver.
£13.
£13. Wow. That's what a packet of cigarette costs. Wow. Well, if you multiply that and you get one packet a week, that's a significant amount of money. So if you can stop smoking, can you imagine who's going to be better off? Everyone wants to go on holiday, and the trendy word at the moment is called staycation. So staying at home. Think about going for a local holiday or staying at home, but maybe doing a few fun trips once the lockdown lifts. Perhaps going down to Brighton for the day or somewhere not too far. And perhaps you might not even have to stay overnight, but you could still have a holiday. And that sort of thing is what people hate me saying. You know, they always say, oh, yeah, but you go on holiday overseas, we get a pretty package and everything else. But you can't necessarily if you haven't thought about budgeting through the year. So if you want to, okay, look for cheap flights, you know, look through Skyscanner or some of these other systems to look at saving money. And maybe even look for an all-in package, because then you don't even have to worry about any extra money for food and drink. Let's go to the next one. The next one is the one which is something which a lot of people think, oh, should I really do this? And this is the spend to save. You know that your utility bills, like your gas, electricity, water, etc., do cost. And there's a word I use regularly now for environment, and that's called weatherize. In other words, prepare your house, right? So either insulate, right, or make sure you close your windows if appropriate, right? Turn down the thermostat by 1 or 2 degrees. If you've got double glazing, right? If you haven't got, double glazing, think about putting double glazing in. And if you can't afford double glazing, put secondary glazing in. It does just as good a job and also reduces the amount of noise. But it's really important that you do that. And then if you're buying a washing machine or a dishwasher or a refrigerator or a freezer, look for the star rating, right? If you can get an A star or an A rated electrical item, it means it's going to be more efficient and it's going to cost you less to run. And a lot of people don't, when they go down to, let's say example, Currys, right? They look at the nice aesthetic feel of the refrigerator and it's got the drawer, it's got these fancy things. What they also need to do is look at the star rating. You know, I would rather buy an A or an A star rated refrigerator than something which is a B or a C, just because it looks nice and fancy and sexy. So think about that, because over the years, the cost of running that device will save money. That's why I call it spend to save. And I talked about utilities. There is a thing to think about is how long do you put your heater on for? You know, that's your boiler or your central heating system. Many people don't even have timers, right? So that it comes on in the morning before you're going to work, and it comes on just perhaps on before you come back from work, so that it feels warm when you arrive and it's pleasant when you're leaving. And then during the day, you're saving money. Also, if it is a hot day, right, why not just turn down the thermostat a bit? And that could give you a 30% saving just on your standard things. Now, in Hounslow, we do have an organization which the council normally promote. You're familiar with the Green Project, Ian? Yeah, where they can come, somebody will come round and they will review your use of your energy, and also they will give you some tips on making sure that your house is safe and so on. And these guys will actually go on to USwitch and actually, probably come up with something which might save you anything from £100, £200 all the way up to maybe £800 by changing to dual energy packages. But that's a free service, which in Hounslow we can get. And how many of you do this? Pack your lunch before you go to work, right? Now, if you imagine, if you buy lunch at work and it costs you £5 to £7, right? But if you take your sandwiches and a drink and a packet of crisps or whatever, right? You could theoretically save enough money to create yourself a little emergency fund, right? Or if you're a young person, you might be thinking about going to college, or if you're older, if you could put your mute yourself, we're getting lots of disturbance.
Oh, sorry, I thought I muted myself.
No, you got okay.
Apologies.
But okay, so it's a case of thinking about what you could do with that money. I always say that you should have at least an emergency fund of at least £1,000 if you can get there. I know it's very difficult under circumstances, but the point is trying to convince other friends or any of your clients to think about having an emergency fund. Even if they're only putting £1 or £2 aside, over a period of a year, it will make a difference to them. Okay. So we're nearly there. We're down to the last two. I call it an interest-bearing account, making it fancy. But many of us forget that the banks and the credit unions offer you a good savings rate. In fact, most credit unions will actually give you better saving rates than even the building society and the banks. Don't forget to use your ISA. But let's go back to saving. If you regularly put money away, like I said in the beginning, right, of 5, 10, whatever you could afford on one side, when it comes to the end of the year, you'll realize how easy it was for you to save that money. Okay, and it's only a small amount because you're trying to perhaps get rid of your debt. But for savings purposes, see if you can actually have a direct debit set up to be able to put straight into your, and I would always advocate putting it into a credit union, because I know for a fact that they always end up giving you a better saving rate than the banks or the building societies. So the last one, and it's very similar to what I said about your lunch. This is your spending. How many of you quite easily in a week, if you're working or in an office, you could quite easily be spending £20 a week on different snacks, unless you've gone to Sainsbury's or Tesco's and you've bought your packet of biscuits or your crisps and you've put it in the bottom drawer. I know they're tempting. Oh, tell me about it. But the very fact that if you've put that into, if you've taken it from home, you could be saving maybe £1,000 a year on that fizzy drink and that snack. Because if you went and bought a can of fizzy drink from a grocery store, or it's not grocery, but say from one of the big grocery stores, it might only cost you 50p for the can. But if you went and bought it from the restaurant or from the shop nearby, it might cost you £1. That is significant, and it soon adds up to helping to save money. So my kind of comment to you is think about regular savings. You will have a much more comfortable mindset. Your brain will feel a bit more comfortable. You yourself will still feel comfortable, and ensure that it builds up into an emergency fund if ever you need it. I'm going to advocate to you the credit unions. There are 300 of them in the country, and your local one is Thames Bank, and they try to help people in terms of payroll deduction. In other words, money is saved directly from your employer's salary and put into your savings account. If you don't want to do that, think about putting it into the post office, which will also do something like that. But I'm going to go for the credit union because it's accessible, it's online. If you want to take money out, you can transfer it online. But whatever you're doing, it's regular savings. that will soon build up to give you those extra few pounds at the end. And I'm going to show you in a couple of simple examples now. So here comes the first slide. I hope it comes up okay. Right. Can you see, just give me a thumbs up if you can see the amount saved. Can you see that at all, Ian? It says £2.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you save £2, right, and this is a weekly, if you save £2 a week, after year 1, you will have saved £104. If you leave that alone, and you'll get interest added to it as well, and the trick is the compound interest, right? It will grow to at least 208 plus interest. In year 3, it will grow to £312. And after 5 years, you'll have had £520 if you save £2 a week. I haven't added any interest onto this. And I'm sure that if you added interest on that year on year, that will have probably grown to maybe £600 or £700 just by you saving £2 a week. If you're really you want to make sure you save more, if you save £25 a week, look at that figure after year 5, £6,500, and that's without the interest being added on. And that's doable if you wanted to. But I'm saying to most people, think about this: the £2 or the £5. If you can put that on one side into your savings account, you will have a nice little buffer at the end of the time. But it depends on how fast you want to build the buffer. The £25, after 1 year, you have built a nice little buffer in case there's an emergency of £1,300. I'll go to the monthly. Now, if you're really able to do this and you're able to save about £100, £120 a month, right? In year 1, right? Sorry, £10, you would have saved £120, right? I try to do this. I try to save £50 a month. And then I know that if I've got to buy anything for my grandchildren, I know that at the end of the year, I have £600 saved. And these are real figures, and these are real figures without interest. So imagine I'm going to be a lucky person if I've saved £50 every month. After 5 years, I've actually got £3,000. And that's the trick. It's small amounts over a period of time will increase, and this is without interest. The trick is compound interest. Every year, that £600 will have a little bit more on it, and then the 600 plus a little bit more will have more than 1,200, and that's also increasing year on year. So this £3,000 could end up becoming £3,500 very easily. That's the end of my presentation, but I wanted to kind of at least highlight that if you're working with clients who are worried about money management, this is a really simple technique in helping them. All right. So I finished there. I can see Garvin's there, ready with his hands. He's going to do the karate chop on me later on, right? And tell me to run. But I'm glad there's lots of people I can recognize. But I'm open to questions, Ian, if there are any.
Okay, thanks, Mukesh. Anybody got any questions?
Yeah. Just look through the chat box, see if there's
Rob?
anything there.
Yeah, hi. I'm just going to say, Mukesh, one of the things you touched on with utility savings,
Yeah.
you mentioned U-switch. I think that's the key, that the biggest waster of money for all of us is inertia. The fact that once we're in some sort of arrangement with someone, we stay in it indefinitely, while they, knowing that, are substantially increasing our costs year on year, whether it's your mobile phone network provider or your utility provider. They know that 90% of people are going to stay where they are, and they can put their price up every year and people won't even notice. They'll just pay the extra money.
Yeah.
You do need to go on to something like Look After My Bills or Uswitch and find ways to get whatever is the best deal, because they all offer better prices to attract new customers.
Yeah.
Once you're an established customer, they smack you. So always be the new customer on the block.
Absolutely. I know this year I have an auto renewal with Admiral, and they sent me my renewal notice, and it was about £600. I actually rang them back, and I also did some research. The best one I got was for about 540. Then I asked Admiral themselves, and I said, well, you know, this doesn't seem right that you're charging me this. And would you believe it? They reduced the price from the auto renewal by £100. That was just a phone call, and I think what somebody has put in the chat box. You know, I mentioned about the green. I think it was the green something, but it's called the Green Doctors, and they are a service which the London Borough of Hounslow provides for people who have disabilities or general needs in terms of maybe their income or whatever. And they will, at this moment in time, because of COVID, they won't come to your house, but they will do a telephone interview, and they will ask you to prepare, find out what your electricity bill is, your gas bill, how much are you using, and they will even do the stuff for your internet service provider. And they will actually do the calculation for you, even if you can't type it, and then give you a recommendation. And it may be one or two, it's up to you then to decide. But you know, as we're all involved with the charity sector and supporting the community, look up the Green Doctor service in Hounslow. And I'm sure they do it in Ealing as well, but it's well worth getting someone to do that review. Okay, I think I've got Rosita, is it? Yeah, got your hand up. Okay,
Thank you. Mukesh, I was going to ask you how your clients are coping with the pandemic and the lockdown. Are they affected by it financially? Especially some people are really suffering from long COVID and are not able to do their jobs the way they were able to do. So I just wanted to know your observations about the situation with the pandemic and money.
Yeah, in terms of my observation, since the 23rd of March, in terms of my role within the credit union, and I'll talk about some of the other stuff I do, we have to follow the guidance from the Bank of England. We are regulated by the PRA and the FCA, which is the Financial Conduct Authority and the Prudential Regulatory Authority. And even though I'm a volunteer, I'm obligated to ensure that they put out information that says that we can give people money holidays. So if they had a loan, we could give them a loan holiday. And that was really important because we could freeze their payments and at a later date ask them to repay. But it allowed us to do that. But we were more flexible than that. What we try to say to people is continue to pay a little bit if you can, and that way you don't build up any additional cost yourself. But if they said we're in trouble, we happily observe the guidance from there. What we have also done is we recognize that many of the people, which we call key workers, right? People who've had to continue to support us, all of us, you know, whether it's in the NHS or whether it's in the electricity companies or the telecom companies, is that some of them have had financial difficulties. So what we've done to help them is that we've offered something called a key worker loan. So that they could borrow up to £1,000 at 0.5%. Not any of the banks are doing that. But the advantage was that we were treating everybody by exception if they needed to borrow money, up to £1,000 if they were a key worker. The other thing is that we introduced other products so that, for example, you got your employer to become a corporate partner with the credit union. It doesn't cost the company anything to become a corporate partner. So for example, I don't know how Ealing and Hounslow CVS works, but whether it's the London Borough of Hounslow is your payroll master, or you have your own payroll master. But say if you're independent and you had your own payroll, each of you, we could actually say, okay, we welcome Ealing and Hounslow CVS to become a corporate partner. What that would mean is that we could then offer immediately each member of the organization a loan of up to £3,000 straight away at an interest rate based upon whatever was appropriate at that time. It all depends on your individual circumstances, but there isn't any other organization which could do that. But most people I see are, a lot of them, because they're stuck at home, they have reduced their expenditure. So what they're doing is reducing the amount of debt they have, which is really brilliant, because one of the functions of the credit union primarily is to help you save, but also if you wanted to borrow money, you can borrow it at better rates than going to a loan shark. And we are working with the national organization, which is trying to stop the loan sharks. These are the people who knock on your door. I've got a friend, they'll lend you £100. But then they tell you that if you don't pay the £100 back within the month, they're going to charge you £200. And then if you don't pay that, they'll send the boys round to break your knees. That's what we're trying to stop. And within Hounslow and Ealing and other boroughs, we still have this ongoing dilemma where people cannot borrow money. So we call them financially excluded. But the credit union tries to help them by being part of, being able to borrow money efficiently and effectively and ethically. Does that help to answer your question, Rosita?
Yes, it does. If I may ask, you mentioned key workers. How come they are earning, but you said many of them are in financial difficulties? Is it price rises, or what else is the reason?
Yeah, a lot of them are finding that if say, for example, they aren't able in some instances to get as frequently as they did in the past public transport, they may have to use some other mode of transport, like a taxi, right? And if you imagine if having to use a taxi, it costs you more. The other thing is that when you're at home, the rest of the family, like the children and maybe your partner, they are spending more in terms of food, energy, because they'll all be on the internet, they'll be watching the TV, they'll be eating more food. So their bills, their home bills start to increase.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when, a lot of them were living hand to mouth. And this pandemic has impacted them as well. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much.
And the last thing was about furlough. There are many people who have been furloughed. They're only getting 80% of their salary. So they then have a bit of difficulty. I work with the food banks, and when I visit the food banks, I can see just what you would call regular people who you would never expect to see at a food bank are there, right? And they're having difficulty. So if they're turning up at the food bank, can you imagine the financial situation as well? Thank you, Rosita, for that very good question.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Mukesh. There's no more questions. I'm now going to hand over to Rosalind and Jess, who are going to talk about the Push Doctors program.
Thank you, Ian. So I'll just say a few words, and then Jess has got a presentation that she can share with you. So my name's Rosalind King. I work for the 46 GP practices in Hounslow, and we're going to talk to you today about Push Doctor. And the 46 practices have worked together to provide some additional digital access to the people registered within their practices, and that service is provided by Push Doctor. So Jess will show you a little bit about how that works. But in essence, this is additional capacity, so more GP appointments than previously existed, but these are all accessible via digital means. So you can choose now whether you want to have your consultation with the GP in the practice or over the phone with your practice team, or you can now access a doctor via this process as well. And we're really keen to do that, particularly because there are lots of people who've got additional health needs now with the impact of COVID. So it should be hopefully something that some people will find useful. It doesn't replace what you've got currently, it's additional to what you've got currently. So I'll hand over to Jess. I'm really sorry, but I'm going to have to also nip out at 15:15 as well. So if there's anything that comes up after that, feel free to drop me an email and I'll pick it up. Thank you very much.
Great, thanks Ros. Hi, nice to meet you all. My name's Jess and I've got my colleague here, Neil, with me, and we're calling in from the Manchester office from Push Doctor. I'm just going to share my screen and just go through a quick presentation about Push Doctor and the types of services that we're now offering within Hounslow. And then Neil's going to also talk about how we're tackling digital inclusion. So Push Doctor, like Ros says, it's an additional service to the services your GP surgery already provide. It allows patients to see a doctor face-to-face, wherever they are, at a time and place that suits them, on their phone, tablet or laptop. And you can see in the photo there, that's what a consultation looks like. So it looks a bit like a Zoom call or a FaceTime. We've got the ability to switch the camera around, so you can show, if you've hurt your ankle, you can show the doctor that, you can send a photo, you can use chat, and then if there is an emergency as well, there's an emergency button which notifies our patient experience team and also the doctor as well. So we've been working in partnership with the NHS for over 2 years now, and we're used by 5.8 million patients across the UK. Appointments in Hounslow are available 8 AM to 8 PM weekdays, and then also services provided on a Saturday, 9 AM to 5 PM. You can book an appointment 7 days a week, 24 hours a day on the app or on the website as well. We have an average App Store rating of 4.7 out of 5, and we also provide NHS prescriptions that can be sent to your nominated pharmacy. So if you need a prescription and they're NHS, you can pick them up from your local pharmacy. And we're also rated the highest, we've got the highest CQC rating for a digital healthcare provider. So we have over 100 GPs on the platform. They're all on the NHS performers list. They also work within NHS practices as well and just do additional hours with the Push Doctor service. We also regionalise these, so they will be within your local area, so they'll know the local services that are provided within your area. So we ask patients when they come onto the platform if they can give us consent to share their healthcare record. So this is really great for our GPs. So that means our GPs can see a full patient's record and give them a really good all-round consultation with the knowledge, their previous medical history knowledge, and then they can also write back to the record to ensure that continuity of care, so that the next GP that picks it up or whoever is looking at it in the surgery, the notes are updated. So there are 2 ways to sign up for the service. You can either contact your surgery and they can send you an invitation, or you can go onto the Push Doctor website and just add your surgery in there by clicking the sign up button, and I'll post that link on the chat later on as well. And then you just add your surgery in, and then you can create an account. So account creation is really simple. We just ask for an email address, mobile number and a password to set up the initial account, and then some personal details that we use to help identify your NHS record. So once you've set up your account, you can go in and book an appointment. You can select the date. We give up to 7 days view of appointment times. But we just ask that patients provide a form of photo ID. So this is just an extra kind of like layer of safety on top of it to ensure that the right person is having a consultation. We also have a virtual waiting room. So once you've booked an appointment, you've uploaded your ID, you'll then go into a virtual waiting room. So it's a bit similar to how it works in the surgery. And then once the doctor is ready to connect, it will pick you up and then take you into consultation. And then they'll kind of introduce themselves, take you through what will happen in the consultation, and then be able to give you the health advice or treatment that you might need. So we've got a fantastic medical team who work in-house here, who help create like all the governance and the formal processes that we need to go through to provide a digital service. And we're also regulated, like I said, by the same quality care commissioning group that your local GP surgery is. And we've been given a good rating with outstanding and well led. And we continue to work closely with the CQC to provide the best level of safety and care that we possibly can. And then finally, just in terms of push doctor service, we have a support team. So we have one for patients. So this is general support if you need help setting up your account, if you're wanting to find out a bit more information about the service, if you're unsure about something, you can contact our support team and they can help you. And we also have a dedicated one for our surgeries as well. So that's just an extra layer for them to get in contact. So that's just kind of like an overview of what the service is. I'll pass over to Neil now, who's going to talk through the digital inclusion project that we've started with Hounslow, and then maybe we'll look at some questions after, if that's okay with everyone.
Thanks, Jess. Yeah, so I'm just going to touch on this a little bit. So, I mean, clearly what it is effectively you can see a clinician, a doctor, a pharmacist, a physio over your phone, effectively. So you don't have to get into the surgery anymore. You don't have to take that journey into surgery. But what I'm going to talk about now here is what we're doing around digital inclusion. So digital inclusion is really important. You know, obviously healthcare affects everyone. It affects everyone in the population. So we need to make sure that people who aren't necessarily well versed with technology, how they use phones, how they use technology, also has access to the benefits that Push Doctor can offer. So I'm going to take you through our approach to digital inclusion, making sure that everyone can use this service and get the benefits of digital healthcare. I would think this is quite an important statistic here. You know, there's 20% of people in England across social groups, across age groups, who don't necessarily have access to the technology or the internet connection or the skills to be able to use, to benefit from all the things that digital can offer. And that's what we're really about at Push Doctor. We're trying to include everyone. So one thing that we've stated is our aim is to actually be as inclusive as possible so that everyone, you know, from the youngest to the oldest members of the population can benefit from what we offer. So we're all about closing the exclusion gap and promoting the use of digital so that the patient population can be healthier. And we've taken a specific approach. If you could skip to the next one, thanks. Oh, we're a bit stuck.
Sorry, a bit of a technical difficulty.
Technical glitch.
There we go.
So this is some research actually that's been done by the NHS. There are 4 main reasons why people don't necessarily adopt digital technology. And, you know, these reasons are really ingrained in the healthcare space as well. Healthcare is a really personal thing that, you know, is perhaps less digitized than a lot of things. It's not like you're watching Netflix, you know, and the 4 reasons that the NHS has found are those that are displayed on the screen. So motivation, I'll just quickly explain what that is. I mean, not everyone knows about what they can do with healthcare in the digital sphere. I'd you know, posit the question, how many of the people on this call actually knew about Push Doctor before this presentation. Probably it's 50-50, maybe even less. So motivation is really about making people aware of the services that we offer. And that's part of what we're doing here today. Confidence, we all receive spam email, random texts. Sometimes people are fearful of actually adopting digital services because they might think they're fraudulent. And so that's one of the barriers that we're seeing. We have to explain what we're doing, explain why it's beneficial so that people gain confidence in the services. Access is really about, not everyone has, and I presume everyone has today, back one please. Everyone today has strong internet access and access to devices, but some people don't have access to the internet. They don't necessarily have the right technical devices at home. And one of those, that's really been demonstrated during the pandemic, when children have been forced to do remote learning from home. Not everyone has the right laptop, not everyone has the right internet connection to enable teachers to be able to provide that education remotely. So access is something we're really focused on. And finally, digital skills. So not everyone knows how to access services or is confident in setting up an account. And that's something that we really need to address. So digital skills is an area that we're looking at. On to the next one, please, Chaz. These are the 4 groups that we've identified as needing perhaps the most support in, and perhaps today are the most digitally excluded. So we've identified the non-English speaking groups, people that maybe English isn't their first language. And as a result, as a result, we're looking at things like multilingual registration processes to cater for those audiences that perhaps don't understand the service from a language perspective. Older people, like for example, my father is very well versed with the use of technology. My mother, not so much, so she needs more support than perhaps my dad does in terms of coming to use services and getting and adopting those services. So we've identified that group as a group that needs that additional support. People on low income, again, referring back to those people that don't necessarily have access to the right technology, don't necessarily have the strongest internet connection in the world. They are naturally digitally excluded because of that, and we need to come up with solutions to help those individuals. And then finally, people with disabilities. So we're talking about people who maybe are hard of hearing or maybe have trouble reading, visually impaired. So we need to come up with solutions that allow all those individuals who have those troubles and disabilities to also adopt our services. Those are the groups that we're looking at for our digital inclusion program. And finally, what we actually are doing about those individuals. So multi-language, we're actually translating our services to multiple languages, not just in the registration process. So you maybe have a form in English and Polish, for example, when you're signing up for the service, but actually when you're consulting with a doctor. So one of the trials that we're running in Hounslow, in your community, is the ability to, now we have a translator in the video session. So when you're talking to your doctor, if you're speaking in another language, for example, Polish, we'll have a Polish translator in the session translating your speech so the doctor can understand. That's something that's running in your area now, and it's something we really want to expand on. Digital ambassadors, these are if you're struggling to get set up and you're struggling to register your account, you can call our patient experience team, which is actually located here in Manchester in this office, and they can walk you through the process. They can actually help set up the account on your behalf. So we're finding those digital ambassadors are really important for those, perhaps that elderly group, which I explained earlier. They feel more comfortable speaking through and talking through the process on the phone rather than doing everything in isolation on a website. Another one here is digital pods. So we're setting up in Hounslow Town Hall, I believe, a pod. It's a glass room in effect, which has got is highly private. It's got frosted glass. It's soundproof. That people can turn up in that pod and actually have a consultation with a doctor. So this is for that low income group that I explained earlier, that perhaps don't have the latest phone, don't have an internet connection. They can turn up in this pod and actually get healthcare at that location. So that's something we're launching in Hounslow over the next couple of months. And finally, the AA Plus certified accessibility. That's for those users that are perhaps hard of seeing, hard of hearing. We're designing our website and our app So, for example, screen reading. If you're hard of seeing, there's a screen reader which actually narrates the text that's on the website or the app, so that you don't, it makes it more accessible to those individuals that perhaps have difficulty in that respect. Okay, and I think as this is actually, the proof's in the pudding to some extent. This is actually what's happening in your area, and I would really be excited to get as much engagement as possible. So in Hounslow, in April, the multi-language service with the language being Polish is the first language being Polish is launching, and we then want to expand those languages to cover more and more individuals, more and more languages. So that will be in the month of April. We'll have that digital ambassador in place before the end of April to help people get set up with the service, and so that more and more people can adopt it. That's somebody that you can call that can get you set up if you're not already set up on Push Doctor, and get you access to healthcare, which is what it's all about, really. Making sure that if you have a problem, if you have a health problem, you get access to a clinician. That's really what we're all about. And then the AA Plus for people who perhaps are visually impaired or hard of hearing, those features will be available in the month of May, so that those individuals will also get that great access to healthcare that we're offering, in addition to the healthcare offer that you already have through your local surgery. And the pod I described earlier, which is that room which an individual can turn up and get instant access to a clinician via a tablet, that will be in place in the month of June, hopefully. That is clearly also linked to how lockdown works. Because obviously if everything's still in lockdown, that might be slightly delayed, which is why it's kind of in that future bucket there. So yeah, we're doing as much as we can in your area to make sure that healthcare access is available to all. And I'd love to take any questions now, if any have been raised. I think there's a few on the chat, maybe we can run through those. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for that. I think Sabrina has a question.
Yes. Sabrina, shall I read out your question, or do you want to
Yes, I basically received a text, and it was about the Push app, and I was quite impressed actually, but it doesn't allow me to have more than one account. And I have two teenage daughters in my house that are over the age of 16. One's 16, one's 18. So I wanted to know why I wouldn't be able to create more than one account.
You can have more than one account. The account's normally linked to a mobile phone number. So I guess that, if you have multiple mobile phones, you can create multiple accounts. I guess the question you're asking is, can you create more than one account registered to one phone number? Is that?
No, I've got different phone numbers for my daughters, but they said that I could only have one account when I sent an email to the administration in I don't know. I just received an email today from the Push Doctor. They just said, sorry, but you're not able to create more than one account. It was Jennifer Rose from Brook, Push Doctor.
Okay, you can create more than one account, and what I'll probably do is I'll probably just contact you and get that sorted for you, if that's all right, Sabrina.
All right, that's great. Thank you.
So there you go, instant. Yeah, I'm glad you raised it, but yeah, we'll get that sorted for you, Sabrina.
Thank you a lot.
No problem. Was there anything else that you might want to raise, guys?
I think there's another question on here. I think is it the same as the NHS app? No, it's a completely different app, providing kind of the face-to-face consultations with a GP. We are linked in as part of NHS Login. I don't know if any of you guys are signed up to NHS Login, but you have to do that to get the NHS app. So you can use that as if, when you use Facebook login for certain services, it's similar to that. So we are signed up with them in that way, but it is a completely separate app and service. So you can use a desktop, you can use the website as well and use a laptop. You don't just have to use the app.
Yeah, and the NHS app is great, by the way, but we are separate to it. We work very closely with the guys in NHS Digital, but ultimately it's a slightly different service. We're offering you instant access to a GP. Ultimately, NHS app allows you to see your medical record, perhaps order repeat prescriptions, things like that. So slightly different service. It's a great app, but we do something slightly different.
Hi, Rob, did you have a question?
Yeah, I did. I just, I don't want to be a party pooper, but one of the things that immediately comes to my mind, I've been worried for quite a long time about kind of subtle privatization of the NHS, where I keep getting letters from people saying we can offer you an NHS service for eyesight or for hearing or for whatever, but in fact it is a private company who has set up some kind of contractual arrangement with the NHS. Is Push Doctor a private for-profit company that has a contract with the NHS to be allowed to offer these services?
Yes, thank you, Rob. I understand your concern. So ultimately, we work with the practice. So a practice like your local GP practice will, just as they might hire a GP or hire a locum to come and work at their practice, we're effectively the same as that. So we're just providing workforce, we're providing clinicians into local practice. So our contractual arrangement is with your local GP practice. So you might say that rather than them hiring 5 GPs sit in the surgery, they come to Push Doctor and say, oh, can we also use you as a way of digitally delivering those appointments? So, so yes, we are a private company. We operate, our contractual arrangements are with your local GP practice. I understand your question and your concerns, but it's very much how the existing NHS works, but via a digital front door rather than being a face-to-face clinician. So it's pretty similar to how the NHS works already, but we're channeling the digital channel to provide consultations rather than the GP surgery hiring a physical clinician. So it's not really disruptive in that sense, if you know what I mean. Does that answer your question, Rob?
Yeah, it does. It does. Thank you.
No problem.
I think, Rosita, did you have a question?
Rob asked my question actually, so they've been answered. Thank you.
Rogers, did you have a hand up?
Yes, I did. I just wanted to ask about in terms of data, will the Push Doctor also have one access, for example, like when the locum doctors attend to somebody, they would have access to some private confidential information about patients. How does that work?
So that's an excellent question, Roger. So, you know, healthcare data is the most important data in anyone's life. It's very, very private and, you know, it's very, very regulated. So ultimately, your data is yours. And the only time that a doctor can see it is at what we call point of consultation, a point of care. So the doctor only gets access to your data if you have asked for an appointment and also at the point that you turn up for the appointment. There's no access to your healthcare data outside of the consultation. That's not just for Push Doctor, that's for everyone. Healthcare data can't be used to, you know, sell you something or something like that. It's more, you know, it can only be used at the point of care. That's part of the CQC regulation. That's part of the law, actually. You can't use people's data for anything other than providing care to that individual. And we entirely respect that. And actually, not only do we respect it, it's actually the law. You can't do anything with the data other than use it to provide care.
And that's why we have the record sharing agreement that we ask you to agree to. So we explain that, and that links also to our privacy policy and the terms and conditions, so you can read through that before you agree to accept it. And that's why we do the photo ID as well. So that's another level, which probably most of your GP surgeries may not do the photo ID, but it's to ensure that that medical record is the person presenting there and the medical record as well.
It's like your surgery, Roger, in the sense that even in your GP surgery, the only time they can open the filing cabinet and look at your healthcare record is if you turn up. If you don't turn up, they've not got a right to go in there and start leafing through everything. It's exactly the same. You can only look at people's healthcare data if they turn up and ask for an appointment. Does that answer the question?
Thank you.
No problem.
I think Harriet's got a...
Hi, Harriet. We can't
Or
see.
just I think she's just concerned about excluding people who need.
Sorry, I'm from the United Anglo-Caribbean Society, and most of our members are elderly. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, sure, we can hear you, Harriet.
Yes. So Harriet, yes, exactly that. Maybe we can put that slide back on with the user groups. But the elderly and the frail are probably the most complex individuals to try and engage them with a digital service. And yes, that's why we've put in place something which we call digital ambassadors. They're individuals that the person can call up in our call center here, the older people, yes, that group there in the second one to the left, that they can call up and talk through any concerns they have or talk through any problems they're having in terms of registering for the service. Yeah, you're right. It's one of the groups which we got in our digital inclusion program for that very reason. Sometimes they struggle. My mum is the same. That's what she would. I often set everything up for her, to be honest, because she needs talking through and walking through stuff. So yes, we recognise that, and yeah, it's a very valid point.
And what I think would be really great is like happy to. I've popped my email address on the chat as well, and Monique, I think, is feedback on any if you sign up to service feedback and like tell us any kind of like ideas or any experiences that you've had that might help us shape the services, because what we want to do is try and really be as inclusive as possible.
Yeah, healthcare is for everyone, isn't it? And sometimes I think the elderly members of the community are actually the people who need healthcare the most and have the most complex presentations. They might have diabetes as well as maybe 2 or 3 conditions that need managing. So it's really important to bring them on this journey and get them using the services. They have the most to benefit from using these services. That's why we've created this digital inclusion program to help them. Does that answer the question, Harriet? Sorry, I think I kind of rattled on a little bit. Quite passionate about it. So.
I was just going to say that digital.
Monique, could you go on mute, please, Monique? There's a bit of feedback coming through your.
Is it? I think. Were you trying to ask a question, Monique?
Okay, sorry, Harriet, you were saying?
I was saying that there are a lot. My fear in all this is that the people I represent and work with in our groups, they're so put off by the word digital inclusion is bandied out there, but a lot of my people find it very hard to work with the concept. And I just don't want people to assume that because you're saying that you're doing this, you don't miss the people who really need help.
Yeah, and actually, it's kind of why we're here today. We really want to engage with people that can give us like insights into these kind of users. I mean, nothing's perfect. We're not saying we've got everything perfect. So the more that we can get feedback from the kind of people that you're talking about, Harriet, the more that we can refine the services and bring them on board, the better. Our aim is a good one, right? We want to help people get better access to healthcare. If you have any specific concerns, please, we'd love to hear them, and we'd love to use those to actually improve what we're doing. But we recognise what you're saying. That I think it's the confidence pit there in the middle of that slide. Some people just don't trust online services, and that's something we have to address and deal with, because ultimately it's better for them if they get access to these things. So yes, maybe it's something we might want to engage with you a bit more, Harriet, to understand if there's anything specific that we can work with that you're worried about.
Okay, right, thank you.
I think, Mukesh, did you have another question?
Yeah, my only question is that because I sit on the Disability Network Hounslow platform, and we have a significant number of people with various disabilities, ranging from visual impairment to hearing and physical. Is this process what you've just described? How are you going to be able to support those individuals who don't really have the ability to use a smartphone or anything like that? They're reliant on their carer to make their appointments and things like that.
Yeah. This is the one furthest to the right there, which we've called AA Plus Certified Access, which sounds quite dull if you look at the title, but actually that is all about that. It's about providing little features that allow people who are maybe hard of hearing, hard of seeing to use the service. So I'll give an example for the hard of hearing. It's something called a screen reader. Ultimately, it's a little audio facility that literally...
Yeah, if a person doesn't have a computer, doesn't have a smartphone, which many of the people who are in the Disability Network Forum in Hounslow, they don't have. So
I think
it's really difficult if you're, there's no point saying, I've got a AA star like a refrigerator.
Yeah, no, I understand. And I think that's, yes, for those who maybe also sort of hard of hearing or hard of seeing, that's where the digital pods, that's what we've kind of positioned those in. So that's actually a facility which is fixed, which is it's effectively a glass box, which is frosted, where those people who don't have access to those devices can turn up, and it has a device installed inside the box. I would love to show you a picture of one. It's actually just around the corner over there. So you can turn up at these pods, which is like, it's basically a glass room. You can turn up at this room and you can get access to healthcare regardless of whether you have a smartphone or not. And that's what they're all about. It's about allowing people who don't have the technology, they don't have the internet access, to also still access the service. They just have to turn up at this room, effectively, this glass box room, which we call a digital pod. Does that answer your question, or have I missed the point?
Okay. Yeah. Before we go to Rob, Eva's just got a question.
Hi, Eva.
What do you want, Rob or Eva?
Okay, Eva first, then Rob.
Hi there.
Do we do ladies first?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Hi there, my name is Eva and I'm working in Ealing Council.
Hi, Eva.
I'm just aware of the time. I actually have two questions, but I'm only going to ask one. I think I can get in touch with you guys later just to kind of iron out the call to actions. I think as part of this meeting, I'm talking about a wider humanitarian and vital support project. So I can talk about it in more details later. In Ealing Council, we will be happy to promote what you guys are doing. I'm just not clear on the call to action. So what happens, for example, with a GP surgery that doesn't work with you? But we can discuss this separately, I think. But just a quick question. Are you guys a recruitment company for locum doctors and nurses and stuff like this?
No, we're not. So we have NHS doctors that work using our platform. They all work in GPs, by the way. So typically a doctor normally will have some work that they do for the NHS. They'll also do some work which they do, they maybe work as a clinical director. So we work with NHS doctors. They sign up to use our platform. We're not a recruitment company, so to speak. I like to think of us as just like your GP practice, but just digital. Ultimately, we have doctors on our books. They all work for the NHS. They're all they're kind of handpicked in a way. They're all the best performers. But we're just trying to do what your GP practice does, but over digital and make it available to everyone. That's our kind of ambition. That's our passion. In terms of your other questions, please do email us outside of this if we don't get the chance to discuss everything.
I'll put both our email addresses in the chat before we jump off.
But for us, this is like gold because we love to speak to our users, the people using the service. So it's really important for us to get feedback and questions. That's how we make things better.
Sure. I think in terms of promotion, somebody else earlier kind of mentioned, I think what we can do in local authorities is just be honest and transparent with people and just give them different options. So obviously we can say, speak to your GP, go to the traditional routes. However, push doctor is just another option.
Well, how people normally discover us, Eva, is they'll call their GP. So we work with 46 practices in Hounslow, which I think is the majority of. So they'll call their GP practice just as you would if you wanted an appointment, and the GP, the person on the end of the phone, will just say, "Oh, actually, you know what? You can get an appointment in the next 10 minutes on video if you want." And that's how people discover the service. So that's the main route people discover the service. We would love people to discover it otherwise, but through other means, but that's probably more than 90% of people that first come across Push Doctor is because they're just calling that practice as they normally would.
Okay, thank you.
Great, thanks.
Okay, Rob.
Sorry, Rob, that was a long answer. I've delayed your question.
I just wanted to ask Neil and Jess. I don't think you have answered Mukesh's question, because you concentrated on two physical disabilities, sight and hearing. But in actual fact, if you've got people who have learning problems, people who may have mental health problems, agoraphobia, paranoia, people who are in a wheelchair,
yes,
you're saying go to the pod. The pod is not going to be a solution for those people at all. And it seems to me you need to build into your framework some sort of system that accommodates the possibility of another person being present and accredited as a carer to be able to handle the interviews for these people. And especially, I know it's a good thing to extend the capacity of the NHS to deal with patients more out of hours, since the traditional doctor being on call thing has long disappeared. But at the moment, a lot of what you're saying, even with your AA accredited whatever, is still catering for those who already have this kind of access. And you haven't really answered Mukesh's problem. And I think you need to look at that wider issue, because you haven't mentioned that business of the carer being present anywhere in your presentation.
Okay, I think that's I think that's a fair point, Rob. There are people, and actually it's not just, I think you gave a few examples there of people who perhaps, with mental health issues and need somebody else present. Also, it's non-English speakers, for example, that may often want to have someone else present to explain what's happening in the consultation. The reason we come back to this slide, which is what's in front of you, if you look to the far right of that slide, there's something called multiple user accounts. And I think it's something which Sabrina also mentioned. You might have a situation where you have one person in the household who actually is registering and managing the care of everyone that's in that house. There might be 4 people in that house. And that's what that bit there, multiple user accounts, that's what we're doing there, is we want perhaps have one person as the kind of carer, if you like, the registered carer that's possibly managing the healthcare of people, multiple people in a household. That's what that brick there to the far right, multiple user account, that's what that addresses. It's where you may be, Rob, for example, I don't know your circumstances, but maybe if you have a partner, for example, that needs care, that's the situation I have with my parents, for example. My father's the carer. He pretty much takes care of my mum's healthcare arrangements and goes to her all her consultations with her. So ultimately, that's what that multiple user accounts aspect is about. You register for yourself to get access to Push Doctor, but you also register for your, people that you're responsible for in your household, so that you can be in attendance during the consultation they have with their healthcare provider. You might have to be in attendance, to walk them through what's happening in that consultation. So I think you're right in your point. It's something we acknowledge, and it's something that we're trying to address through that multiple user accounts thing there. I don't think it's expressed particularly well, and actually it's not spelt correctly. It's multiple, I think, instead of multiple. But that's what we're trying to do with that feature. Enable carers in a house to look after other people. Does that answer your question, Rob, or have I still missed the point?
Yeah, it does. It does, but it's a problem that it's so far down your timeline into a future hoped for situation. I think it needs to be there a lot earlier than that. And I don't know whether Mukesh agrees that that's going to be an issue for the people from his disability network.
There's always it's a question of priorities to some extent, isn't it? There's always a question of what you should do first. I think there's an argument that it should be sooner. Yeah, I acknowledge that, and that's something we need to take away and think about, Rob, as a result of your question.
And I do think it is because we are part of the additional service to the surgery as well. We're not taking care away from anyone. We're just trying to add that additional service, and then if people want to use it, then we can try and enable that as much as possible. Yeah. With these additional pieces that we're doing with Hounslow, and yeah, I think it's a journey that we can go on together, with you guys feeding back to us, and like as we launch these things, like telling us is there anything we can improve, and then we can try and like build those solutions in.
I like your point, Velma, that you've just raised there. It's actually sessions like this that help us understand what is a priority. So it's not a no, Rob. Actually, you raised that point, and actually maybe that's making me think, is that something we need to bring in and do sooner? Because is that something that's more important for the community in Hounslow? It's kind of the reason we're here in a certain sense.
Yeah, that sounds great.
I think there's some more questions. Which one do we go through? Does that answer your question, first of all, Rob? And do we scoot on to the next one? Or Roger, I think, is raising his hand.
Sorry, I'm getting terrible crackle on the audio. I haven't understood much of what you just said, Neil. I was going to come back in anyway.
Rob, do you know what? I'm going to send you my phone number. Maybe you call me after this, and then we can. I'll give you my answer again. And but happy to talk through it. I was saying that maybe you've raised a point that we need to do this faster. Maybe it's something we need to bring in.
Okay, no, I understood that much. I understood that. That was fine. Thank you.
Thank you. Roger?
Mine's just an observation, actually. The more people that actually use Push Doctor frees up actual GPs. So the people who have difficulty in using IT get better access.
That's the point, actually. Our kind of ambition is that we don't want to replace the face-to-face doctor. What we recognise is that the face-to-face, we need to save that for the people that really need a face-to-face appointment. So we want to help people that don't need to be face-to-face. Maybe their problem can be dealt with in a quick video call, but that frees up the GPs to deal with the problems that really matter. The complex conditions, the cancer referrals. Those are the kind of things that they need to be focused on. That's what we're about ultimately, and that's our passion.
And I think the digital inclusion piece is just like, we know that it's a big part of the NHS scope as well. And also with COVID, we know that it's become, because loads of online services have moved to online, and everyone's communicating with each other in that way. It's kind of like you still have access to your GP, but we just want to make sure that if you do want to use digital services, then hopefully we can provide that for as many people as possible.
Yeah, there's some worrying numbers going about at the moment, actually, Roger. Like, there's 3 million less GP appointments per month happening right now in the UK because of COVID. That means 3 million people every month aren't getting the care that they need because they're scared to call it the surgery, they're scared to go into the doctors. That's a big problem, and I think that's what we're trying to help address. Give those people access to care in a form that that doesn't scare them and doesn't stop them seeking care when they need it. Anyway, sorry, I'm getting carried away, but this is what.
Yeah, can I just follow up and say there is a minimum number of GPs that are required to meet the population, and at the moment, Hounslow does not have enough GPs.
Well, that's why we're working with.
Why they've opted to use Push Doctor.
Yeah, exactly that. We're trying to. It's what we call under-doctored communities. We're trying to provide more capacity to communities where there's not enough clinicians. So yeah, that's kind of the reason why we're here, Roger.
Yeah, I know. I've already had about 4 meetings with you. So
I know, I've met you. This is our third meet, Roger.
So sorry, I'm preaching to the converted.
He's doing your job for you.
You did my job for me, yeah, thanks.
Yeah, can we also say that I know that Bush Doctor came to my group, and if there are groups, can't they contact you and you can have a one-to-one session with the groups?
Not only am I open to it, I actually encourage it, because the more we speak to real patients and users, the better we can become. That's effectively what myself and Jess, that's our job really, to speak to users, make the service better for them. That's what we're here to do. So yes, please encourage them to do that if there's any feedback.
Yeah, we're 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. on Saturdays.
Yeah, so sorry, that was a question that came up from.
Let's go to.
Yes, so yes, we're available 7 days a week. Slightly restricted hours on the weekend, which is 9 to 5, but during the week we're 8 to 8 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Something else that hasn't been mentioned, a couple of little things, that you will triage people into the hubs if needed.
Could you repeat that, please, Roger?
Yeah, if people use your service and they do really need to see a face-to-face appointment, you can triage into the hubs.
That's correct. So we call that safety netting. So ultimately, what we're trying to do is get someone in front of a doctor faster. But if they do need a face-to-face appointment, get that also. That's one of the outcomes that could come from one of the sessions. So you'll see a clinician within, most likely within the hour if you use Push Doctor, and they will book you an appointment face-to-face if your condition requires it.
And of course, the other thing is that it's available wherever you reside in the UK if you're on holiday.
Correct, yes. So yes, you can be in your car, you can be in the bathroom.
Which goes back to the staycation.
The staycation. Actually, most people are just in their home at the moment, aren't they? So yes, it's available wherever you have a device service available. Will patients have appointments with their own GPs? So no, it's a pooled service. So typically you will see the next available GP, but the GPs are regionalised. So they're GPs that know your local services and what's available in your area. So it's a kind of blended approach. It's a pool of GPs, and that's important because it means you can see a GP faster. They have got access to your healthcare record though, at the point of consultation. So the care quality is just as high as if you're seeing the GP that you know and love in your surgery. But it's a pool set of GPs.
I think we have started to speak with Houseover about some of their GPs being on the platform as well, but it might not be specific to your surgery because there's 46 surgeries. But I know it probably may be a question for Roz, but I know that GPs within Houseover area have wanted to come onto the platform as well, and use that as a way of consulting with patients. But we can't determine which doctor that you would see because of the way that we allow access to patients.
We can't guarantee it'll be Dr. Bob that you see, but what we can guarantee is that they will have access to the right information to make a good judgment on the diagnosis.
Yeah, we're coming towards the end of the session. Obviously,
sorry, we've rattled on. I do apologise.
I think it just shows how many questions there are when you raise NHS services and new services available.
No, and appreciate all of them. Yes, we do have system on access for that one. Yeah, I really appreciate the questions. I'm really happy how engaged everyone is with this. So
yeah, if you send us the slides, we can circulate the slides to attendees and your contact details so you can follow up.
Yes, please throw anything across. Any questions are good questions for us, please.
Yeah.
Ian, I have got some FAQs on Push Doctor. Would you like me to send you the document?
Yeah, okay, I can circulate that to attendees. Yeah.
Yep. Okay, so we'll do.
Thanks so much, guys. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Yeah. So just to say, we are looking to get your stories in terms of people who are attending the sessions in terms of success stories. If you've been getting people to change their minds in terms of getting the vaccine, take up of the vaccine, so addressing things like conspiracy theories. So please get in touch with me if you have any case studies. I'll send this information about that in the information afterwards as well. I've also had just information that a group in Osterley is getting rid of some chairs. So if anybody needs any chairs, I'll send that information out to you afterwards as well. But yeah, thanks for attending. Obviously, the session next week is going to be on a Thursday because it's a bank holiday on a Friday. So next week is going to be Thursday, 10:30 a.m. to 12.
Ian, can you make it every week on Thursday, please?
We'd have to look into that because I think we chose Friday morning for a particular reason. But yeah, I think we'll probably stick with the Fridays afterwards. But yeah, just for next week, I think, because of the bank holiday. But thanks for attending, and I will send you information on the slides.
Ian, I would like to have a meeting with you, please, whenever you got a time.
Yeah, let me know maybe this afternoon.
Yes, please. Yeah, I'm busy from 1 till 2. I mean, we can have one now just after this, if you don't mind. Only if you're available.
Yeah, I've got to go into another meeting, so
Okay, so
I'll
after
send you an
3
invite,
o'clock.
maybe 3 o'clock, 3 o'clock.
After 3, please.
Yeah, I'll send you one for later on today.
3:15. Yeah, no problem.
Thanks.
Thank you very much, Ian.
Thank you. Bye. Have a great day, guys. See you later.
Thanks. Cheers.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
That was good presentation. Very
Bye-bye.
good. Yeah.